The massive space station Harmony 7 floated in the empty darkness between star systems. Its silver hull stretched for miles in every direction. Bright lights marked docking bays where ships from across the galaxy would soon arrive. Inside the station, workers hurried to finish the last preparations for something that had never been tried before. Commander Park Ji-hoon stood in the main observation deck, watching the final construction crews attach weapons training modules to the outer ring. His dark uniform bore the simple insignia of Earth's Defense Force. At 42 years old, Park had seen more combat than most soldiers twice his age. Scars on his hands told stories of battles fought in the asteroid mines of Kepler 442. His calm eyes had witnessed humanity's first contact with hostile alien forces near the Centauri system. "Sir, the Corvani delegation has just docked at Bay 7, reported Lieutenant Kim Myra from behind him. She was young for her rank, barely 28, but her record in tactical analysis was flawless. Her black hair was pulled back in the regulation style, and her voice carried the confidence of someone who had earned her position through merit alone. Park nodded slowly. "How many ships?" "3 heavy cruisers and a command vessel. Admiral Veltar is aboard the flagship." Parkhead. Read the files on Admiral Veltar? The Corvani military leader had conquered 12 star systems before humanity had even invented the wheel. His species stood 8 feet tall, with blue-gray skin that could deflect small arms fire. Their technology was so advanced that their smallest scout ships could destroy entire human fleets. "And the others?" Park asked. "The Vorthok crystal ships arrived this morning. The Zillion mine ships are due within the hour. All 12 species have confirmed attendance." Park turned away from the window. The weight of what they were attempting pressed down on him like gravity from a gas giant. The Galactic Defense Consortium had decided to create the first interspecies military academy. The idea was simple enough. Train the best warriors from every member species together. Share knowledge and tactics. Build trust between former enemies. The problem was that someone had to run this academy. Someone had to teach these advanced alien species how to fight better. And somehow that someone was humanity. "Sir," Kim Myra said carefully, "are you sure about this? The Corvani had been fighting wars for 3,000 years. The Vorthok conquered half their galaxy before we discovered fire. What can we possibly teach them?" Park smiled grimly. "Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. We'll find out soon enough." The door to the observation deck slid open with a soft hiss. Sergeant Lee Dong-yuk entered, his heavy boots echoing on the metal floor. He was a broad man with thick arms and a face that looked like it had been carved from stone. His specialty was survival training in close combat, where Park used strategy, and Kim used analysis. Lee used raw determination. "The alien delegates are gathering in Conference Room Alpha," Lee reported. "They want to meet the human instructors before the opening ceremony." Park straightened his uniform. "How do they seem?" Lee's expression darkened, "like they're doing us a favor by showing up. The Corvani admiral keeps asking why primitive humans are in charge of training." The Vorthok delegate said something about not wanting to waste time with Stone Age tactics. Kim Myra frowned. "Stone Age tactics? We've been fighting interstellar wars for 50 years. 50 years, Lee repeated. "The youngest species here has been spacefaring for over a millennium. To them, we're children playing with toys we don't understand." Park walked toward the door. "Then we'll have to show them that sometimes children see things adults miss. Come on, time to meet our students." Conference Room Alpha was the largest meeting space on Harmony 7. The circular chamber could hold representatives from hundreds of species. Today, it hosted delegates from 12 of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. Admiral Veltar dominated the center of the room. His blue-gray skin seemed to absorb light, and his forearms moved with mechanical precision. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone who had never been questioned. "Must repeat my objections to this arrangement," Veltar said as the humans entered. "The Corvani have studied warfare for millennia. Our battle computers can process millions of tactical scenarios per second. Our weapons can destroy planets. Why should we learn from a species that still uses chemical explosives?" Near the far wall, The Vorthok delegate stood like a living sculpture of purple crystal. When it spoke, its voice rang like bells. My people have fought across 3 galaxies. We have perfected the art of war through mathematical precision. What knowledge could possibly come from organic beings who have existed in space for less than a century? The Zillion representative was harder to see. Their species existed partly in normal space and partly in what they called the mind realm. When they communicated, their thoughts appeared directly in other beings' heads. The message was clear and dismissive. We can read the tactical thoughts of our enemies before they form them. Telepathic warfare is beyond the comprehension of single-minded species. Park stepped into the center of the room. Every alien I fixed on him. Some looked curious. Most looked annoyed. A few looked openly hostile. You're right, Park said simply. About all of it. The room fell silent. We are primitive compared to you. Our technology is basic. Our ships are slow. Our weapons are crude. We've been fighting in space for 50 years while you've been doing it for thousands. Park paused and looked around the room. But you're all here because something has been killing your fleets. Something has been out fighting your advanced civilizations. Something that doesn't follow your mathematical precision or your battle computer predictions. Admiral Veltar's forearms tensed. The pirate fleets use stolen technology and cowardly tactics. Exactly, Park said. They fight dirty, break rules. They use whatever works instead of whatever looks impressive, and they're winning. The Vorthok delegate's crystal body pulsed with angry light. Are you suggesting we should fight like common criminals? I'm suggesting you should fight like survivors, Park replied. Every human military doctrine was written in blood by people who couldn't afford to lose. You don't have the luxury of perfect technology or mathematical certainty. You have to adapt, improvise, and keep fighting even when everything goes wrong. The Zillion's mental voice cut through the tension. And you believe this primitive approach will help us? Park smiled coldly. I believe you're about to find out. The academy opens tomorrow. You can learn our methods or you can keep losing too. Pirates who already have. Your choice. The opening ceremony took place in the main assembly hall. Representatives from all 12 species stood in formation while Park delivered the welcome address. Kept it short and simple. Welcome to the Galactic Defense Academy. You are here because your governments believe you need better training. I am here because my government believes we can provide it. For the next 6 months, we will work together. You will learn our methods, we will learn yours. At the end, we will all be better warriors. As the ceremony ended and the delegates filed out, Park caught Admiral Veltar watching him with calculating eyes. Human, the Admiral said, his voice like grinding metal. Your species may have earned the right to try. But if your methods prove inadequate, I will personally recommend that this academy be shut down and its human staff reassigned to more suitable duties. Park met the alien's gaze without flinching. Admiral, if our methods don't work, there won't be an academy left to shut down, or any of us left to reassign. The challenge had been issued. The stakes had been set. Tomorrow, the real training would begin. The first week of training at the Galactic Defense Academy was a disaster. Commander Park Ji-hoon watched from the observation booth as Lieutenant Kim Myra tried to explain basic combat formations to a group of alien trainees who clearly thought they were wasting their time. The diamond formation provides maximum firepower while maintaining defensive coverage, Kim explained, pointing to the holographic display. Each ship covers the blind spots of the others. Trainee Keth of the Vorthok. Crystalline species made a sound like breaking glass. His purple crystal body pulsed with what Park had learned was amusement. This formation is crude and inefficient. My people perfected combat geometry 3,000 years ago. We use the prismatic array, which provides 17% greater firepower distribution. The other alien trainees nodded in agreement. Cadet Nira, from the Zillion telepaths, sent her thoughts directly into everyone's minds. These simple formations are taught to our children as historical curiosities. Why are we learning primitive tactics? Kim Mira's jaw tightened, but she kept her voice steady. Sometimes simple works better than complex. Simple formations are easier to maintain under pressure. Pressure. The question came from trainee Vex of the Corvani. His blue-gray skin seemed to darken with contempt. Our battle computers eliminate pressure. They calculate all variables and provide optimal responses in microseconds. Your species still relies on emotion and instinct. Park activated his communicator. Kim, take a 15-minute break. I'll handle the rest of this session. Kim nodded gratefully and stepped aside. Park entered the training room, and the alien trainees straightened slightly. Even if they didn't respect human tactics, they had been taught to show proper military courtesy. Trainee Vex, Park said calmly, your battle computers are impressive. How many combat scenarios can they process per second? Vex's forearms crossed in a gesture of pride. Approximately 2.4 million tactical variables per second, Commander. Our systems can predict enemy movements with 94.7% accuracy. Excellent. And how did those systems perform against the Red Nebula pirates at the Battle of Titan's Gate? Room fell silent. Titan's Gate had been a humiliating defeat for the Corvani Third Fleet. The pirates had destroyed 7 heavy cruisers and captured a command ship using nothing but converted cargo haulers and mining equipment. Vex's skin color shifted to a deeper blue. The pirates used unconventional tactics. They did not follow standard military doctrine. Exactly, Park said. They fought dirty. They used tricks your computers didn't expect. They adapted faster than your systems could calculate. Around the room at the other trainees, how many of your species have lost battles to these pirates? No one answered, but Park could see the truth in their body language. Every major military power in the galaxy had suffered defeats at the hands of pirates using improvised tactics and stolen technology. That's why you're here, Park continued. Not to learn our formations or our weapons. To learn how to fight. When your advantages don't matter. How to win when the enemy doesn't follow the rules. The second week was even worse. Sergeant Lee Dong-yuk tried to teach survival skills to aliens who believed their technology made such training obsolete. Your ship is damaged and you're stranded on a hostile planet, Lee explained to the assembled trainees. Your communicators are dead. Your weapons are low on power, and rescue won't arrive for 6 days. How do you survive? Trainee Zethmera of the Corvani raised one of her 4 hands. This scenario is unrealistic. Corvani ships carry backup communication. Arrays. Our armor systems have internal power sources that last for weeks. Stranding a Corvani warrior is virtually impossible, but it has happened, Lee pointed out. 3 months ago, Lieutenant Calden of your 5th Division was stranded on Rigel 4 for 12 days after a pirate ambush. Zethmera's skin darkened. With embarrassment, that was an exceptional circumstance. Every combat situation is exceptional, Lee replied. That's why we train for the worst case, not the best case. The Vorthok trainee Keth made his glass-breaking laugh sound again. Human paranoia is well documented. Your species sees danger everywhere because you lack the technology to eliminate it. We have evolved beyond such primitive concerns. Lee walked over to the equipment table and picked up a simple survival knife. The blade was steel, nothing fancy or high-tech. This knife costs 5 credits. It has no power source, no computer chips, no advanced materials. It's been the same basic design for thousands of years. He tossed the knife to Keth, who caught it awkwardly in his crystalline hands. Your crystal body can deflect energy weapons and resist most toxins. The room went very quiet. Keth looked down at the simple blade, then back at Lee. You would not dare attack a trainee. Of course. Not, Lee said with a slight smile. But a pirate would. And pirates don't care about your advanced crystal biology or your mathematical precision. They care about what works. By the third week, the alien trainees had formed their own study groups. They gathered in the recreation areas after official training hours, sharing advanced tactics and discussing their species' military histories. The human instructors were politely excluded. Captain Yoon Seo-jin, Academy's deputy commander, watched the aliens through the security monitors. She was a thin woman with graying hair and eyes that missed nothing. Her specialty was intelligence, analysis, and strategic planning. "They're not even pretending to pay attention anymore," she told Park as they reviewed the day's training reports. The Corvani group spent today's weapons training session discussing their latest beam cannon improvements. The Vorthok were sharing crystal harmonics that can shatter enemy armor. Park looked tired. Dark circles under his eyes showed the strain of the past 3 weeks. What about the Zillions? They're the worst. They keep using their telepathy to share private jokes about human incompetence. Yesterday, I caught them mentally laughing about our Stone Age communication methods. Kim was trying to teach radio protocols. Park rubbed his forehead. Maybe they're right, but we don't have anything to teach them. No, Seo-jin said. Firmly, they're making the same mistake everyone makes when they first encounter pirates. They think superior technology automatically means superior tactics. The fourth week brought formal complaints. Admiral Veltar requested a private meeting with Park in the commander's office. The massive Corvani leader had to duck to fit through the human-sized doorway. Commander Park Veltar began without preamble. I must express serious concerns. About this training program, my officers report that they are learning nothing of value. The combat scenarios are simplistic. The survival training is irrelevant. Tactical instruction covers methods our people abandoned centuries ago. Park leaned back in his chair. What do you suggest, Admiral? Place the human curriculum with proven galactic military doctrine? My staff can provide training materials that have been tested in thousands of battles. The Vorthok have offered to share their crystal combat techniques. The Zillions can teach psychic warfare methods. All methods that the pirates have already defeated, Park pointed out. Veltar's forearms tensed. The pirates succeed through luck and cowardice, not superior tactics. If that were true, Admiral, your fleets would have crushed them months ago. The meeting ended badly. Veltar left with barely concealed anger. And Park knew the Admiral would be filing negative reports with the consortium leadership. That evening, Park called his senior staff together in the briefing room. Kim Myra looked frustrated and exhausted. Lee Dong-yuk seemed ready to start breaking things. Captain Seo-jin appeared calm, but Park could see the tension in her shoulders. Honest assessment, Park said. Are we failing? The trainees aren't. Learning, Kim admitted. They think our methods are primitive and useless. They won't even try the survival exercises, Lee added. They keep saying their technology makes such skills unnecessary. Seo-jin was quiet for a moment, then spoke carefully. They're learning, Commander. They just don't know it yet. Park looked at her. Explain. They're learning what doesn't work. Every time they dismiss our methods, every time they rely on their advanced technology, every time they assume their superiority, will carry them through. They're setting themselves up for the lesson they really need, which is, Seo-jin smiled grimly, that pride comes before the fall, and when they fall, they'll finally be ready to listen. Outside the station, space remained empty and peaceful, but everyone knew that somewhere in the dark between stars, pirate fleets were moving. Soon, all the theories and training and superior attitudes would be put to the ultimate test, the aliens thought. They had nothing to learn from humanity. They were about to discover how wrong they were. The massive simulation chamber hummed with energy as Captain Yoon Seo-jin prepared the most complex training scenario the Academy had ever attempted. Holographic displays showed a star system under attack. Civilian stations were burning. Refugee ships fled in panic. Enemy forces moved between the planets like deadly shadows. Today's exercise is called Broken Shield, Seo-jin announced to the assembled alien trainees. You are defending the Kepler 186 system? Enemy has superior numbers and has already destroyed your main fleet. Your mission is to protect the civilian population while conducting a fighting retreat. Trainee Zethmara of the Corvani studied the tactical display with her 4 eyes. What enemy are we facing? Pirates cannot field forces this large. Unknown hostiles, Seojin replied. They use mixed technology, improvised weapons, and unconventional tactics. Your job is to adapt and respond. The Vorthok trainee Keth made his glass-breaking laugh. Adaptation is inefficient. Proper military doctrine provides optimal responses to all scenarios. Commander Park Ji-hoon watched from the observation deck as the simulation began. This would be the 3rd attempt at Broken Shield. The previous 2 had ended in complete disaster. But the alien trainees refused to admit their methods were flawed. The enemy fleet appeared on the sensors. Dozens of ships of different sizes and designs moved in what looked like random patterns. Some were clearly military vessels. Others appeared to be converted cargo haulers or mining ships. A few were so heavily modified they were barely recognizable. Scanning. Complete, reported the Zillion trainee Nex, her telepathic voice appearing in everyone's minds. Enemy composition is chaotic. No standard battle formations detected. They appear to be operating without central command. Trainee Vex of the Corvani took command of the defense fleet. His blue-gray skin gleamed under the simulation lights as he studied the data. Perfect. Disorganized enemies are easily defeated. Through superior coordination, all ships assume delta formation. We will engage the largest enemy vessels first. The alien defense fleet moved into perfect geometric patterns. Each ship took its assigned position with mathematical precision. Their formation looked beautiful and deadly. It's like a work of art made from sureship. The enemy fleet responded by doing absolutely nothing the aliens expected. Instead of engaging in ship-to-ship combat, the enemy vessels scattered in all directions. Some attacked the military ships directly. Others ignored the defense fleet completely and headed straight for the civilian stations. A few seemed to run away, only to circle back and attack from unexpected angles. They are not following engagement protocols, Vex said, confusion clear. In his voice, how do we respond to enemies who ignore tactical doctrine? Destroy them systematically, suggested Keth. Apply overwhelming firepower to each target until they are eliminated. The Vorthok formation opened fire with precise, calculated salvos. Their crystal ships fired beams of pure energy that could cut through battleship armor. But the enemy ships refused to stay still long enough to be properly targeted. They ducked behind asteroids, used civilian stations as cover, and employed every dirty trick imaginable. Meanwhile, enemy forces were landing on the civilian colonies. The population centers were under direct attack, but the alien defense fleet was too focused on proper military engagement to respond effectively. Civilian casualties are mounting, reported Lieutenant Kim Mira from the observation deck. Population centers on 3 planets are being overrun. In the simulation, Trainee next tried to coordinate the defense using her telepathic abilities. I cannot read their tactical intentions. Their minds are chaotic and unfocused. They do not think like military personnel. Then how do we fight them? Demanded Zethmara. Follow standard doctrine, Vex insisted. Maintain formation integrity. Focus fire on priority targets. Victory will come through superior discipline. But victory did not come. The enemy forces seemed to multiply like a virus. Every destroyed ship was replaced by 2 more improvised vessels. The alien defense fleet found itself fighting ghosts, chasing shadows, and slowly losing control of the entire system. Park activated. His communicator, exercise terminated. All participants returned to briefing positions. The holographic battle faded away, leaving the alien trainees standing in the empty chamber. Their perfect formations were in ruins. The civilian population they were supposed to protect had been slaughtered. Their advanced tactics had accomplished nothing. What went wrong? Seojin asked, as the group gathered around the central display. The scenario was flawed, Vex said immediately. No military force would operate in such a disorganized manner. The simulation does not reflect realistic combat conditions. The enemy behavior was impossible to predict, added Keth. Our tactical computers require logical patterns to function properly. His opponents acted like mindless animals. Nex's telepathic voice carried frustration. Their thoughts were too chaotic to read. No civilized species fights with such mental disorder. Park stepped down from the observation deck. His boots echoed in the silent chamber as he walked to the center of the group. You want to know what went wrong? You fought the simulation like it was a war game instead of a war? Explain, demanded Zethmara. War games have rules. Both sides follow the same basic principles. They use similar tactics and equipment. Victory goes to whoever executes the standard doctrines most efficiently. Park gestured to the now empty holographic display. But real war has no rules. Real enemies will use whatever works regardless of whether it fits your tactical manuals. Are suggesting we abandon proven military science? Vex's skin darkened with anger. I'm suggesting you learn to fight enemies who have already abandoned it, Park replied. The Red Nebula pirates don't follow your tactical doctrines. They don't use your formation patterns. They don't care about honor or proper military procedure. They care about winning. Keth's crystal body pulsed with indignant light. Such methods are beneath civilized warriors. Tell that to the crews of the ships they've destroyed, Park said coldly. Tell that to the colonies they've raided. Tell that to the families of the soldiers who died following proper doctrine against enemies who don't care about proper anything. The alien trainees looked at each other with growing unease. For the first time since arriving at the academy, they were beginning to understand that their advanced civilizations might have a serious problem. What do you propose? Asked Nex, her mental voice quieter than usual. Run the simulation again, Park said. But this time, forget everything you know about proper tactics. Stop trying to fight the enemy you want to face, and start fighting the enemy that's actually there. The second attempt was even worse than the first. The alien trainees tried to modify their standard tactics, but they couldn't break free from their ingrained patterns. When the enemy scattered, the aliens tried to maintain formation instead of scattering too. When the enemy used civilians as cover, the aliens followed engagement protocols instead of adapting their approach. When the enemy retreated and regrouped, the aliens pursued an orderly fashion instead of pressing their advantage. Exercise terminated, Seojin announced again. Casualty report, total civilian population lost, defense fleet destroyed, system abandoned to enemy forces. The silence in the chamber was deafening. Third attempt, Park said grimly. Sir, Zethmara said carefully, perhaps the scenario itself is the problem. Our species have defended thousands of systems using proven methods. These tactics work against enemies who fight like you do, Park agreed. But what happens when you face enemies who fight like pirates, who use your own rules against you, who turn your strengths into weaknesses? The third simulation began exactly like the previous two. The chaotic enemy fleet appeared, scattered in all directions, and began their unconventional assault. The alien defense fleet moved into formation, opened fire on priority targets, and tried to maintain tactical order. But this time, something different happened. As Park watched from the observation deck, he saw cracks beginning to form in the aliens. Perfect confidence. Vex's commands became hesitant. Keth's crystal body flickered with uncertainty. Nex's telepathic communications grew confused and contradictory. The simulation ended with the same devastating results. But the alien trainees no longer tried to blame the scenario. They stood in the empty chamber, staring at the tactical displays, finally beginning to understand the scope of their problem. Commander Park, Zethmara said quietly, our methods are not working. No, they're not, Park agreed. Then teach us yours. Park looked around the group. For the first time since the academy opened, he saw alien faces that were ready to listen instead of lecture. Pride had given way to confusion. Arrogance had been replaced by the first stirrings of humility. Tomorrow, Park said, we start over. This time, you're going to learn how humans fight when fighting fair isn't an option. Outside the station, emergency signals began flashing across the communication arrays. The Red Nebula pirates had just broken through the outer defense grid and were heading toward the core worlds. The time for simulations was over. Reality was about to provide the ultimate test of everything the Academy had tried to teach. The emergency alarm echoed through Harmony 7 as urgent messages flooded the communication center. Commander Park Ji-hoon rushed to the command deck where Captain Yoon Seo-jin was monitoring incoming reports from across the galaxy. "How bad is it?" Park asked, reading the data streams over her shoulder. "Worse than we thought," Seo-jin replied, her face grim. "The Red Nebula pirates broke through the Outer Rim defenses 6 hours ago. They're not just raiding this time. This is a full invasion." Force. The main display showed a tactical map of the local star systems. Red markers indicated pirate fleets moving toward the core worlds like a spreading disease. Blue markers showed the locations of consortium defense forces scrambling to respond. "Fleet strength?" Park asked. "The pirates have over 200 ships. Mixed classes, all heavily modified. They're moving in 12 separate groups, hitting targets across a 50-light-year front." Seo-jin highlighted the enemy movements with her finger. "Our forces are trying to intercept, but the pirates keep changing course and splitting up." Admiral Veltar stormed onto the command deck, his forearms gesturing angrily. "Commander Park, I am taking personal command of the defense effort. This Academy experiment ends now. My people need real military leadership." Park turned to face the towering Corvani officer. "What's your plan, Admiral?" "Standard fleet engagement doctrine. We will position our forces to intercept the largest pirate concentrations and destroy them through superior firepower. The remaining scattered groups will be eliminated systematically." "The same doctrine that failed at Titan's Gate?" Veltar's blue-gray skin darkened. "Titan's Gate was an ambush. This time we are prepared. The Corvani 7th Fleet is already moving to intercept the main pirate force. The Vorthok Crystal Armada will eliminate the secondary targets." Seo-jin updated the display to show friendly fleet movements. The consortium forces were forming perfect battle lines, advancing toward the predicted pirate positions with mathematical precision. It looked impressive and professional. Admiral Park said carefully, "What if the pirates don't cooperate with your battle plan? They will have no choice. You're forcing them into decisive engagement." The first battle reports arrived. 3 hours later, Park read them with growing alarm while the alien trainees gathered in the command center to observe real combat operations. The Corvani 7th Fleet engaged the main pirate force at grid reference 447 Delta, Park announced. Initial contact showed clear consortium advantage, superior firepower and tactical coordination. Trainees Ethmera nodded approvingly. As expected, proper military doctrine always prevails over chaotic rabble. "Then why," Park continued, "did the pirates disengage after 15 minutes and scatter in 8 different directions?" The display updated to show the battle's aftermath. The neat geometric formation of the Corvani fleet was still intact, but the enemy had simply vanished. Instead of standing and fighting, the pirates had hit hard and run away, leaving the consortium forces with nothing to shoot at. "Cowardly tactics," muttered trainee Vex. "They flee because they cannot match our firepower." "Where did they go?" asked the Zillion trainee next. Park updated the tactical display. The scattered pirate groups had regrouped around 3 lightly defended colony worlds. While the main consortium fleet was still trying to figure out what had happened, enemy forces were landing on populated planets. "They used your fleet as a distraction," Park explained. "While you were preparing for a proper battle, they were positioning to attack their real targets." More reports flooded in over the next 6 hours. The pattern was always the same. Consortium forces would detect pirate concentrations and move to engage. The pirates would fight just long enough to draw the defenders away from their real objectives, then scatter and regroup elsewhere. Major Shin Hyunwoo, the Academy's intelligence officer, entered the command center with a grim expression. He was a quiet man who specialized in enemy analysis and threat assessment. "The pirates are using our own response patterns against us," he reported. "Every time we deploy forces to stop them, they redirect to hit something we've left undefended. They're not trying to win battles. They're trying to cause maximum damage while avoiding decisive engagement." Admiral Veltar studied the tactical reports with growing frustration. "This is not warfare. This is terrorism," Park said quietly. "This is asymmetric warfare. They can't match your firepower, so they don't try to. They use mobility, unpredictability, and our own tactics against us. The Vorthok trainee Keth's crystal body pulsed with angry light. How do we fight enemies who refuse to fight properly? Before Park could answer, another urgent message arrived. The pirates had just attacked the mining colonies in the Centauri system. While the consortium fleet was chasing shadows in the outer sectors, real people were dying. Casualty reports are coming in, Seojin announced. 3 colonies overrun. Civilian evacuations in progress. Local defense forces requesting immediate assistance. Many civilians, Park asked. Approximately 2 million people across all 3 worlds. The command center fell silent. Even the alien trainees seemed shaken by the scale of the disaster. These weren't just numbers on a tactical display. These were families, children, entire communities under attack. The Vorthok Crystal Armada is moving to assist, Veltar announced. Admiral Kethvalium commands 47 crystal ships. They will eliminate the pirate forces and secure the colonies. Park pulled up the fleet movements on the main display. Crystal Armada was indeed impressive. Each Vorthok ship was a work of art, capable of incredible firepower and near-perfect coordination. If the pirates stood and fought, they would be annihilated. But the pirates had no intention of standing and fighting, Admiral Park said. What happens if they scatter again before your fleet arrives? They cannot scatter indefinitely. Eventually they must engage or abandon their objectives. Their objective isn't to hold territory. Their objective is to cause damage and take whatever they can carry. By the time your fleet gets there, they'll be gone. The next reports proved Park right. The Vorthok Crystal Armada arrived at the Centauri colonies to find empty space and burning settlements. The pirates had taken what they wanted and vanished. Before the reinforcements could arrive, where are they now? Demanded Vel's single quotes Tar. Major Shin updated the display. New pirate signatures were appearing near the industrial worlds of the Kepler sector. Once again, they were hitting targets that had been left undefended while the consortium fleets chased them elsewhere. They're playing us like a game, Seojin observed. Move here, we respond there. Attack this, we defend that. They're always one step ahead because they're not trying to win a conventional war. Trainee Nex's telepathic voice carried confusion and fear. How many people will die while we chase them around the galaxy? All of them, Park said bluntly, if we keep fighting. Their war instead of making them fight ours. Admiral Veltar's 4 arms crossed in a gesture of frustration. What do you suggest, Commander? My fleets are the finest in the galaxy. My officers are trained in every aspect of military science. My ships can destroy planets. Do we use these advantages against enemies who refuse to face them? Park looked around the command center at the assembled alien officers. For weeks they had dismissed human tactics as primitive and useless. Now they were watching their advanced civilizations being systematically dismantled by pirates, using exactly the kind of unconventional methods humans had tried to teach them. Admiral Park said slowly, "What if I told you there was a way to stop the pirates, a way to turn their own tactics against them, and force them into the kind of fight they can't win? I would say you should have suggested it hours ago." I did suggest it. For the past month, you said human methods were too primitive to be worth learning. The silence stretched out like a held breath. Every eye in the command center focused on Park. The weight of 2 million civilian lives hung over the decision that would have to be made. Finally, Admiral Veltar spoke. "Commander Park, I am requesting immediate human assistance in dealing with this crisis." "What do you need?" Park smiled grimly. "A small fleet, a group of volunteers who are willing to learn new tricks, and permission to fight like humans instead of like proper military officers. Done. What is your plan?" "We're going to show your trainees what real human warfare looks like. We're going to let the pirates teach them why sometimes the best tactics are the ones that break all the rules." Commander Park Jahoon stood on the bridge of the human destroyer Swift Justice as it led a small mixed fleet toward the Vega system. Behind him, 5 human ships moved in what looked like a completely random formation. Scattered among them were alien vessels carrying the trainees who had volunteered for this desperate mission. "Contact in 30 minutes, reported Lieutenant Kim Mira from the sensor station. Pirate forces are attacking the orbital shipyards around Vega Prime. Estimated enemy strength is 47 vessels. In the observation section, the alien trainees watched human crew members prepare for battle. What they saw confused and disturbed them. Instead of perfect formations and coordinated movements, humans seemed to operate in controlled chaos. "Why are your ships not maintaining proper spacing?" asked trainee Zethmora of the Corvanie. Her 4 eyes tracked the human fleet movements with obvious concern. "'Cause proper spacing makes us predictable," replied Colonel Nemjuan from the command chair of the human cruiser Defiant. Her ship was scarred from dozens of battles, its hull patched with armor plates from a dozen different sources. "When enemies can predict your movements, they can kill you." The Vorthok trainee Keth's crystal body pulsed with confusion. But coordination requires formation discipline. How do you maintain tactical cohesion without proper positioning? Sergeant Lee Dong-yuk, now serving as tactical advisor aboard the alien transport, answered through the communication link. "We don't maintain cohesion. We maintain adaptation. Every human captain is authorized to break formation, ignore orders, and improvise solutions as needed." "That sounds like chaos," protested trainee Vex. "It is controlled chaos," Park confirmed. "The pirates expect us to move in perfect patterns, follow rigid protocols, and respond predictably to their attacks. Instead, we're going to fight like they do. Dirty, unpredictable, and with no respect for proper military doctrine." The pirate fleet came into sensor range just as the human task force reached the outer edge of the Vega system. The enemy ships were exactly what Park had expected. Converted cargo haulers bristling with improvised weapons. Modified mining vessels turned into assault craft. Even a few stolen military ships that had been rebuilt beyond recognition. "Enemy formation is scattered across a 6 million kilometer front," Kim reported. "They're hitting the shipyards, the cargo depots, and the civilian evacuation routes simultaneously. Standard response would be to concentrate our forces and engage their largest concentration," observed Captain Yoon Seojin from her position on the Swift Justice. "But that would leave the other targets undefended, so we don't use standard response," Park said. He activated the fleet communication system. "All ships, this is Park. Rules of engagement are simple. Find targets, kill them, and don't die. Everything else is optional. Begin attack." What happened next would be studied in military academies for decades. The human fleet scattered like an explosion, each ship heading in a different direction. Instead of coordinating their assault, they seemed to attack completely independently. Some ships headed straight for the largest pirate concentrations. Others bypassed the main fighting to attack supply vessels and command ships. A few disappeared entirely, only to reappear behind enemy formations at the worst possible moment. "This is madness," breathed Trainee Nex, her telepathic voice filled with shock. "How do they coordinate without coordination? Watch and learn." Lee replied from his observation post. "Every human captain knows the mission. Protect the civilians, destroy the pirates, win the battle. How they do it is up to them." The human cruiser Defiant encountered a group of pirate vessels attacking an evacuation convoy. Instead of engaging in a proper ship-to-ship battle, Colonel Nam did something the pirates never expected. She rammed her cruiser straight through their formation at maximum speed. Firing in all directions and ignoring the damage to her own ship. "She's going to get herself killed?" Vex said in horror. "Oh, she's going to save those civilians," Park corrected. "Nam's ship can take more damage than the pirates expect. She's using that advantage to break up their attack formation." Meanwhile, the human destroyer Relentless found itself outnumbered 3-1 by pirate assault ships. Instead of retreating or calling for backup, Captain Chen did something even more unexpected. He shut down his main engines and let his ship drift like a piece of debris while the pirates moved in for the kill. "Why has he stopped fighting?" he demanded. "Keth, he hasn't stopped," Seojin observed with professional admiration. "He's baiting them into close range where his short-range weapons will be most effective." The trap worked perfectly. The pirates closed in, thinking they had an easy kill. Chen waited until they were almost close enough to board his ship, then fired every weapon he had at point-blank range. 3 pirate vessels exploded in as many seconds. Across the battle zone, similar scenes played out again and again. Ships used ramming attacks, suicide runs, false retreats, and every dirty trick in the book. They ignored proper targeting priorities to go after enemy command vessels. They abandoned damaged ships to rescue civilian transports. They turned their own weaknesses into weapons and their desperation into strength. They fight like the pirates. Zethmera observed with growing understanding. No, Park corrected, they fight like humans. The pirates learned their tactics from us. The tide of battle began to turn as the pirate forces found themselves facing enemies who were even more unpredictable than they were. Pirates were used to fighting rigid alien formations that responded according to standard doctrine. They had no experience fighting opponents who were just as willing to break the rules. Pirate command vessel is breaking off, Kim reported. They're trying to retreat? Not going to happen, Park said grimly. He opened a channel to the human corvette hunter. Captain Lee, the command ship is yours. Captain Lee Min-ho of the Hunter had been waiting for this moment. His small ship was fast and lightly armed, but he had one advantage: the larger vessels. Lacti was crazy enough to do things that no sane captain would attempt. The Hunter shot past the retreating pirate command ship, then executed a maneuver that violated every rule of space combat. Lee reversed his engines while spinning his ship around its center axis, using his momentum to maintain speed while bringing all his weapons to bear on the enemy vessel's rear shields. That maneuver should be impossible, Nex said in amazement. Is impossible, agreed Major Shin Hyun-woo from the intelligence station. That's why it works. The pirates can't defend against tactics that shouldn't exist. The pirate command ship exploded in a brilliant flash, taking with it the coordination and leadership of the entire enemy fleet. Without central command, the remaining pirate vessels began to scatter in panic. But the humans weren't finished. All ships, pursue and destroy, Park ordered. Don't let any of them escape to regroup. The human fleet spread out again, chasing down fleeing pirates with the persistence of hunting wolves. They showed no mercy and gave no quarter. Ships that tried to surrender were destroyed. Vessels that attempted to hide were hunted down and eliminated. The message was clear and brutal. This is not how civilized warfare is conducted, Vex protested. This isn't civilized warfare, Lee replied coldly. This is what happens when you push humans too far. When you threaten our civilians, attack our colonies, and force us to fight for our survival, we stop being civilized. We become something much more dangerous. The battle ended with the complete destruction of the pirate fleet. 47 enemy vessels had been reduced to debris and vapor. The human task force had lost 2 ships and suffered damage to all the others, but they had saved the Vega system and its 2 million inhabitants. As the fleet regrouped around the damaged orbital stations, the alien trainees began to understand what they had witnessed. This wasn't just a military victory. It was a demonstration of everything the human instructors had been trying to teach them. You used their own tactics against them, Zethmera said with dawning comprehension. We used our tactics, Park corrected. The tactics we developed fighting enemies who had every advantage except the will to do whatever it takes to win. Sure. Crews fought with no regard for proper doctrine, observed Keth. Our crews fought with regard for the only doctrine that matters, Seojin replied. Complete the mission, protect the innocent, and come home alive. Everything else is just theory. The Zillion trainee Nex's telepathic voice was quiet and thoughtful. Your people's minds during battle were unlike anything I have ever experienced. There was fear, but also determination. Chaos, but also purpose. How do you maintain such mental discipline while abandoning tactical discipline? Park looked out at the stars where the debris of 47 pirate ships slowly expanded into the void. Because we know why we fight, not for glory or honor or military perfection. We fight because someone has to, because if we don't, innocent people die. And because sometimes the only way to stop a monster is to become something even more dangerous. The long journey back to Harmony 7 gave the alien trainees time to process what they had seen. Human warfare wasn't just about tactics and weapons. It was about a fundamental willingness to sacrifice everything, including military propriety, for the things that really mattered. By the time they reached the Academy, word of the victory at Vega had spread throughout the galaxy. The Red Nebula pirates, who had seemed unstoppable just days before, had suffered their first decisive defeat. And the aliens finally understood that humans had something to teach them after all. The news of the Vega victory spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within days, every major news network was broadcasting footage from the battle. Military analysts struggled to explain how a small human task force had accomplished what entire alien fleets had failed to do. Commander Park Ji-hoon stood in his office on Harmony 7, reading reports that still seemed impossible to believe. The Red Nebula pirates, who had terrorized the galaxy for months, were in full retreat. Their scattered remnants were being hunted down by human-led task forces across a dozen star systems. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. "Come in, trainee." Zeth Mara of the Corvani entered, her 4 arms carrying a formal document case. Her blue-gray skin had lost its usual arrogant coloring, replaced by something Park had never seen in a Corvani before: humility. "Commander Park," she began, then stopped and started over. "Sir, I have come to make a formal request." "What kind of request?" Zethmara set down the document case and assumed the Corvani position of respect. All 4 arms crossed over her chest. "I request permission to begin human tactical training from the beginning. I want to learn what you tried to teach us before we were ready to listen." Park gestured for her to sit down. "What changed your mind?" "Watching Captain Nam ram her cruiser through an enemy formation to save civilian transports. In Corvani military doctrine, such an action would be considered wasteful and inefficient. A single ship sacrificing itself for non-combatants goes against everything we are taught about resource management. But it worked. It saved 2,000 innocent lives and broke the enemy formation, allowing our other ships to complete their objectives. Sometimes efficiency is less important than effectiveness." Park nodded slowly. "That's lesson number 1 in human warfare. The most mathematically perfect solution isn't always the right solution." Over the following days, similar conversations took place throughout the Academy. The Vorthok trainee Keth approached Lieutenant Kim Mira with a request to learn what he called chaotic coordination. The Zillion Nex asked Sergeant Lee Dongyuk to teach her how human minds maintained focus during the mental chaos of asymmetric warfare, but the most significant change came from an unexpected source. Admiral Beltar requested a private meeting with Park in the secure conference room. The massive Corvani leader looked tired and older than when he had first arrived at the Academy. The weight of recent failures seemed to have settled on his broad shoulders. Commander Park Veltar began without his usual formal protocol. "Owe you an apology," Park raised an eyebrow. "For what, Admiral?"
"Admiral?"
"For arrogance. For dismissing your methods without understanding them. For believing that technological superiority automatically translates to tactical superiority." Veltar's forearms gestured helplessly. "My fleets have been fighting the pirates for 6 months using every advanced technique known to military science. We lost more ships in those 6 months than we lost in the last 10 years of conventional warfare." "Your fleets were fighting the wrong war," Park observed. "They were prepared for battles between civilized enemies using recognized rules of engagement. The pirates don't recognize any rules except survival. That is why I am here," Veltar continued. "The Corvani High Command has authorized me to make an unprecedented request. We want human military advisors embedded in every major Corvani fleet. It's not as subordinates or observers, but as equal partners in command decisions." Park leaned back. In his chair, "That's a significant change in policy. Recent events have been a significant education in the limits of our strategic thinking. We need officers who can think like the enemy when the enemy refuses to think like us." The request was unprecedented in galactic history. The Corvani had never accepted military advisors from any species, let alone one they had considered primitive just weeks earlier. "What about the other species?" Park asked. "The Vorthok Crystalline Council has made a similar request. The Zillion Mind Lords are asking for human telepathic warfare consultants. Even the most advanced civilizations in the consortium are realizing that technological evolution has made us tactically stagnant." Park considered the implications. Admiral, you're not just asking for military advisors. You're asking us to help. Reshaped galactic military doctrine? Yes, because the current doctrine is failing to protect our citizens. The pirates may be in retreat now, but they represent a larger problem. Asymmetric warfare is becoming more common as smaller groups gain access to advanced technology. Traditional military responses are proving inadequate. That evening, Park called a meeting of his senior staff in the Academy briefing room. Captain Yoon, Seojin, Lieutenant Kim Myra, Sergeant Lee Dong-yuk, and Major Shin Hoon-woo gathered around the conference table to discuss the future of human-alien military cooperation. They want us to train an entire generation of alien officers in human tactics, Park explained. Not just our current trainees, but Academy instructors, fleet commanders, and strategic planners from across the galaxy. That's a massive undertaking, Seojin observed. We're talking about fundamentally changing how dozens of species approach warfare. Is it possible? Asked Kim. Lee cracked his knuckles thoughtfully. Teaching tactics is easy. Teaching the mindset behind the tactics is harder. Humans fight the way we do because of our history. We've always been underdogs. We've always had to make do with less and fight smarter instead of harder. These species have never experienced real adversity, Shin added.
Logical.
Advantages have protected them from the kind of desperate situations that forged human military doctrine. How do you teach desperation to beings who have never been desperate? You don't teach desperation, Park replied. You teach adaptation. You teach them to think beyond their advantages and consider what happens when those advantages are neutralized. Conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication from the command center. Captain Seojin activated the wall display to show incoming intelligence reports. More pirate activity? Kim asked. No, Seojin replied, studying the data streams. This is different. We're getting requests for human military assistance from systems across the galaxy. The Rigel Defense Pact wants human advisors for their border conflicts. The Centauri Trade Federation is asking for anti-piracy consultants. Even the Outer Rim independent worlds are requesting human tactical support. Word is spreading, Park realized. It's not just about the Vega victory, but about human methods in general. The wall display updated to show a map of the local galactic region. Green markers indicated systems requesting human military assistance. The pattern was clear and overwhelming. Can't handle this alone, Lee pointed out. We'd need to train thousands of human officers and establish military advisory positions throughout the galaxy, which means expanding the academy, Kim suggested. Bringing in more alien students, but also more human instructors. Park studied the galactic map with its growing constellation of green markers. Each one represented civilizations that had finally realized the limitations of their own military. Thinking, it's not just about military tactics, he said slowly. It's about survival. Every advanced civilization in the galaxy has reached the same point. They've become so dependent on their technological advantages that they've forgotten how to fight when those advantages aren't enough. A new communication signal interrupted their discussion. The message was marked with the highest priority codes and originated from the Galactic Consortium capital world. This is Chancellor Velmac of the Galactic Consortium, the message began. Commander Park. The Consortium Council has voted to establish the Human Military Advisory Corps as a permanent institution. We are requesting your leadership in this unprecedented expansion of interspecies military cooperation. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The same alien civilizations that had dismissed humanity as primitive were now asking humans to help. Reshape galactic military doctrine. 6 months ago, they thought we were too backward to understand real warfare, Seojin observed. Now they want us to teach it to the entire galaxy. 'Cause 6 months ago, they were winning their wars, Park replied. Now they're learning the difference between winning battles and surviving conflicts. The next morning brought a stream of visitors to Park's office. Trainee representatives from all 12 alien species came to request continued human instruction. But their requests had evolved beyond simple tactical training. We need to understand the human concept of adaptability, explained the Vorthok delegate. Our crystal formations are mathematically perfect, but they cannot adjust to unexpected conditions. We wish to learn emotional discipline during chaos, added the Zillion representative. Our telepathic abilities become liabilities when enemy thoughts are too disordered to read clearly. We require instruction in resource conservation and improvisation, requested the Corvani trainee. Our technology assumes unlimited power and perfect maintenance. When these assumptions fail, our entire tactical doctrine collapses. Park listened to each request with growing understanding. The aliens weren't just asking for new techniques. They were asking to learn an entirely different philosophy of warfare. That afternoon, the Academy's main assembly hall hosted a ceremony that would have been unthinkable just months earlier. Admiral Veltar stood before the assembled trainees and formally announced,